Today we're making this incredible s'mores cake. Let me break it down for you really quickly. On top and on the inside, there's a homemade marshmallow fluff, and yes, I torched it, and double yes, it's so delicious you won't believe it. There is a chocolate buttercream with a full cup of melted chocolate in there. It is basically heaven. And then on the outside and also on the inside, there is a graham cracker crumble that will blow your mind. The cake itself, graham cracker cake. Okay, let's get started. First off, we're gonna crush these graham crackers. You could do it by hand. I will be using my food processor, and I actually get a lot of questions on like what model this is. I forgot the model exactly, but it's a Breville sous chef, and it's the big one. It's actually really handy. 9 of these graham crackers, pop them right in there. Let's whiz it up. Okay, I only need 3/4 of a cup, so let's see how much we ended up with. Blades of death, be very careful. I also got some new measuring cups as a special gift from my husband. Look how pretty they are, I love them. 3/4 of a cup. I have a little bit extra, but we can use this for the crumble, so we'll set this aside too. So for the crumble and skirt, I need 4 graham crackers-ish. And if you don't know, graham crackers they're pretty good. They're like cinnamony crackers, biscuits if you will. I mean, I would never be like, give me some graham crackers. But they make a nice ingredient for s'mores and other things like that. In this cake, they're gonna give us really nice, crispy, crunchy, cinnamony crumble. So take 4 of these guys, pop them into a Ziploc bag, or you can do this by hand if you want, over a bowl. And now we're just gonna smash them. So give them a rough smash. There, we want some larger pieces, not this big, but you know, a little bit bigger, there'll be a nice crispy crunch. What else do we have to add to this? Butter, yes. We're gonna add 5 tablespoons of melted butter, just little glops. I'm sure all of you have microwaved butter before, but the best way to do it is at low power in short bursts. Otherwise, the little bits of milk solid and water in the butter will explode and splatter all over your microwave, which is no fun to clean. So here's my about 6 tablespoons of butter, and I'll be microwaving it at 60% power in 25-second bursts. Now let's combine that with our graham crackers in yet another bowl. Melted butter, gracefully drizzled over your graham cracker crumbles. Get all that butter out. Now, mix it up a little bit, but first, let's up the flavors a bit with a few sprinkles of cinnamon, a healthy pinch of allspice. I love allspice, but you could use any flavors you'd like in this. Okay, now we're gonna mix this up. It's tempting to add more butter, just more, but this is enough. I feel like most recipes are complete and utter liars in the amount of butter you have to use for a crumble, because they'll be like, 8 cups of this and 1 tablespoon of butter. I'm like, no girl, that's not how it's gonna work. Okay, but this is nice, a really good consistency. What we're gonna do is transfer this to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, smooth it out and bake it. And that butter is gonna crisp everything up, and it's gonna be amazing. All right, little parchment paper. Just spoon this health mixture on over here. You can smooth it out with your spatula, or if you want it to be flatter and more cohesive, you can actually roll it out again. But this time I'm just gonna spread it out with my spatula. This little crumble is gonna go into the oven for about like 7-8 minutes at 350 or 177 Celsius. And you're looking for it to golden up and brown. Once that happens, take it out to cool, pop it into the fridge. We'll come back to it later. While it's in the oven, let's make our cake batter. We're starting off with 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. That's 150 grams-ish. So let's plop that in there. 151, that's fine with me. Now those graham crackers, 3/4 of a cup. 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Gonna add in like a little bit of a blessing of allspice too. I love that stuff. A little bit more cinnamon just because I feel like it. 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. All right, let's give it a sift, then give it a whisk. These graham crackers are coming out of the sifter. I feel so successful. And it smells really good too. Okay, whisk it all together, and we're gonna set it aside. Setting this aside, now for that butter. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's mix those wet ingredients first. Half a cup of buttermilk. Half a cup of sour cream. Now we need 4 eggs, but we're using 3 whole eggs and then 1 egg white. 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Now we're gonna give this a nice whisk. Now our wet mixture is done. Our dry mixture is done, but what about the butter and sugar? Let's cream up 1 cup of unsalted room temperature butter and then start adding those sugars in. Okay. Cream it up. Now we're gonna add in half a teaspoon of salt. In you go. Half a cup of granulated sugar and then half a cup of light brown sugar. Now let that get light and fluffy, cream it up, just give it a few minutes. All right, it's been a few minutes and just take a look at this. Nice and creamy, very light in color, it's all fluffed up. What we're gonna do is add in our wet mixture and our dry mixture in a couple alternating batches. It doesn't have to be 3 exactly, it could be 2, just, mix it up a little bit. So starting with the flour mixture, add about 1/3 of that in. So dry, need some wet. A little bit more dry. Rest of the wet. Let's mix up that side a bit. Let's scrape that bowl down. Bowl's all scraped down. Back to low. Add the rest of the flour in. All right, I'm gonna finish it up by hand. I think that's the best way to do a cake batter. You take it almost all the way, and then you just fold the rest in. Make sure there's no bits of flour hanging around. All we have to do is prep our pans. I'm using 3 6-inch pans, my favorite, and they're 6 by 2 inches, not those super deep ones. Just in case you're wondering, I get a lot of questions on that too. If you're familiar with my normal cake recipes, this one is a little bit more tender, so you have to really butter and flour very well. And on this one time, if you wanted to use a parchment round at the very bottom for a super easy release, that's an acceptable idea. Using cold butter is the best. It's the easiest way. All buttered up. Now let's add a tablespoon of flour. Just kick it around. If you're noticing that your cakes aren't releasing really easily, probably because they're underbaked. A baked cake layer will pull away from the edge and it'll pop right out almost every single time. Dump the flour out. On to the next. You don't have to use a kitchen scale, but I love doing that. It gives me really even cake layers. So just measure it out roughly to begin with, and then you can get the exact amounts at the very end. I measured out roughly the same amount of batter into each pan, and now I'm just gonna finish it off with some cake strips. If you watch my videos, you know that I love using these. They give me perfectly baked flat layers that are fluffy on the edge. Really nice for cake decorating. If you want to learn more, click up here for my How to Get Flat Cake Layers video. Before we get to the buttercream, I want to show you the crumble. It's out of the oven and cool enough for me to touch. You can see it really browned up, and I'm just gonna sneak a bite. So good, so good. Shocking that like cooking something in butter makes it more delicious, but it's true. All right, this can go into the fridge. It'll make it easier for me to handle when I crumble it up, or you can leave it at room temperature, your choice. I recommend the fridge though because you will be nibbling them. For that buttercream, I'm going to use a scant 1.5 cups or 340 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature. In you go. Cream that up for a minute. Cream, cream, cream. This is going to make a nice American chocolate buttercream, but if you want this to be a lighter, less sweet cake, go ahead and make a chocolate Italian buttercream, and let me tell you about that. You're gonna make my normal Italian buttercream recipe, click up here for that, but then at the very end, you could add in that cup of melted and cooled chocolate. Oh my gosh, that stuff is really good. but it's much less sturdy. So here's the deal. If you want to use Italian or Swiss buttercream to build a cake, I really recommend building it up, doing a thin crumb coat, putting a skewer through the center, and then chilling it. It needs to be chilled. Once that happens, bring it out, add your final coat. You'll have so many fewer tears that way. Just trust me. Normally, I would sift the powdered sugar in, but there's no piping tip involved, just smoothing, so very optional. You can do it if you want, but nothing's gonna get clogged, so I wouldn't worry about it. Unless you're using organic powdered sugar, in which case you always have to do it. I'm not gonna talk about sugar refining now, but there's some things that happen that make this have less clumps. Okay, add that in. It's gonna add in like maybe a big dump at a time. Nice and scientific. Don't. Let that incorporate. I'm adding in half a teaspoon of salt right now. Okay. What? This is so yellow, pure yellow. We're making a chocolate cake, but just as an aside, because I get so many questions about this. If you're using butter that's really yellow like this, it's never gonna be that white, but you can get it much whiter by just whipping it, whipping it, whipping it, whipping it. Keep whipping it up. All that air there will lighten it up. It'll be much less yellow. The other thing is to use cheaper butter. Don't use the fancy stuff. This stuff has beta carotene in it. The paler, cheaper butters will give you whiter buttercream. Add in some more sugar. And that's like all the sugar we need. That's like half a pound left over. I'm gonna add a splash of milk in right now. Just like a tablespoon or two. Let's just take a look. Much nicer now. Basically done. All we need is that chocolate. So let's melt and cool that cup of chocolate in the microwave. Give it little 60% power bursts, but I actually have a trick for you. Let me show you this. Here's what I started doing to get this chocolate situation happening a bit quicker. Take a bowl and microwave it for like 1.5 minutes, almost 2 minutes. It'll get really warm, and then put your chocolate in there. Then you can microwave it in like little, very low temperature bursts, and it'll melt so much quicker. That heat will radiate through. Once your chocolate's melted and cooled, it's time to add it into your buttercream. This is going to make everything better. The chocolate is, what, semi-sweet? So you could use bittersweet too if you want, especially because we added all that sugar in, but this makes a very nice combination. And don't be afraid to add in like a tablespoon of instant espresso or some other flavor too. You can make this your own. Okay, let's take a little taste test. I like it, but let's take it to a full teaspoon of salt for some balance. A couple dashes of cinnamon. I think it'll go well with a graham cracker. This will be good. And another dash of vanilla. Okay, coming back to that taste test with a clean spoon. That's nice. That's a nice. Okay, setting this aside, now our last component is that marshmallow fluff. Marshmallow fluff is so much easier than you might think. It's basically a meringue and then some molten sugar with the secret ingredient being light corn syrup. We need a clean bowl for this. No grease. That will really inhibit your eggs from fluffing up and forming a nice meringue, which is the basis of our marshmallow fluff. So let's take this aside. For room temperature egg whites, right into the bowl. Don't get any yolk in there. You can separate them out with the shell like this, or use your clean hands, which is what I usually prefer to do. The yolks are really great for making custards and flan. Flan is a custard, but you can use custards or curds. Lemon curd, orange curd, raspberry curd. I've got a lot of recipes for those on my blog, so if you go to preppykitchen.com, check it out. I'm gonna add in a few dashes of cream of tartar. start whipping these egg whites, but first, the sugar mixture. What we have is half a cup of corn syrup, light corn syrup. To the corn syrup, I'm adding 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. We're gonna put this over like medium-high heat, stir it around just so the sugar and the corn syrup incorporate, and then it's gonna come to 240 Fahrenheit, so use your candy thermometer. Start frothing these eggs up. Once the eggs are frothed, add in 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar, slowly, a gentle cascade. Just to show you, our meringues are totally at the soft peak stage. Now we're gonna add in our molten 240-degree sugar while it's on low. Add it in slowly because it's very hot. So as you can see, this is very hot and steamy. You definitely have to let the mixer run for a while until it reaches room temperature. Go ahead and pack this with ice or frozen peas if you want to speed the process up. While the mixer's running and cooling down, go ahead and add in a nice splash of vanilla. Okay, it's been running for a while at room temperature. I just want to show you the crazy marshmallowy consistency you get from this. It's actually like very cool. Look at that. Take a little taste. Very good. Okay. About half an hour later, these are out of the oven. You can see the edge pulled away from the pan. That's how they're ready. Also, the center is springy. Okay, let's dump them out. If you're wondering how to make sure it's done, you can also give it a tap. And if it'll move around in the pan like this, you know it'll come out. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Very nice, very flat layers. Do you see how flat that is? Perfect for decorating and very soft. Very, very, very soft. All right, set these aside to cool completely before assembly. To assemble the cake, I'm starting off by piping one really big ring of that chocolate buttercream. I used a large round tip, but you could just snip the end off a piping bag. Fill it up with that marshmallow fluff, sprinkle all of that delicious crumble on top, and then give it a nice drizzle of the chocolate. Add the next layer on, repeat the process, and then finish it with the third layer. For the buttercream I'm using to coat the outside of the cake, I added another couple tablespoons of cream to thin it out so it'd be really smooth. I wanted those rings that are supporting the cake to be really thick because the marshmallow fluff could leak out otherwise. It's very, kind of gooey. So anyways, use your thinned out chocolate buttercream and just pipe it to completely cover the cake. Smooth the side with a bench scraper. You can fill in any little bits that need filling in if you need to. And then smooth the top with an offset spatula. To get a nice clean edge, I use a clean offset spatula and pull it in while I turn the cake slowly. Really does the trick, super easy. To remove the excess buttercream from the cake stand, I just use a damp paper towel and really scrape it all off. Super easy. Once your cake is completely smooth, it is time to finish off the decorations. Only a couple steps left. Press that crumble onto the bottom third of the cake. It gives it a lot of texture and balance, and it's delicious. And now we're gonna pipe that marshmallow fluff on. I used a large open star tip, which is an 869 Attica tip. And then pipe like little, however you want. You don't even have to pipe it. You could just like swoop it on and make it look like a nice, beautiful meringue. Once you're satisfied with the overall shape and amount of meringue, you can torch it. Torching it is so fun. If you don't have a kitchen torch, go and buy one. It gives it a nice finishing touch, beautiful contrast, and I love the taste too. I have been waiting for this bite for quite a while now. I gotta tell you, you need to make that graham cracker crumble. Even if you don't bake, you don't make anything, it's literally so delicious. Not metaphorically delicious, literally. Okay, let's take a, That was so fun and easy, I swear. Other than the cake piece falling many times when I was trying to film this outro, everything else was totally a-okay and really delicious. That graham cracker crumble, which is really difficult to say, graham cracker crumble, is amazing. You'll just be sprinkling it on everything. A little bit of ice cream here in your mouth. Time for a bite. Okay, here's the deal. The cake is like so interesting. Those graham crackers, which are like kind of in lieu of flour, give it a nice texture. It's not bready at all, really like, it's very tender. The marshmallow fluff and the chocolate, hello, basically heaven. This graham cracker crumble, just delicious. You gotta make this cake. Thanks so much for watching. If you like my videos, hit that like button and subscribe.